Hello and welcome to this Power Breakfast hosted by the Collective Empowerment Group. My name is Dr. Bobby Manning. I'm blessed to be the president of the Collective Empowerment Group, which is an organization of churches and local businesses uniting our collective strength for economic empowerment. We've been in existence for 25 years, partnered with banks and local businesses to grow awareness and economic viability within our community. And I invite you to our website, www.empowerdmv.org, for more information. If you're a small business, we have strategic partners who are small businesses, and we want to encourage you to consider being one of our strategic partners. Not only does that allow you to bring your collective strength to empower our community here in the DMV, but it also allows you for more networking within the community, as well as building your potential client pool within the faith community. If you are a local church, particularly a local church leader, I want to encourage you to be one of our member churches that allows you connection with the business and political community in the DMV, discounts and special incentives with our strategic partners, and informational team building sessions and seminars that we do on a regular basis to build your staff and to empower your members. Again, you can go to our website, www.empowerdmv.org, for more information. Normally, outside of the COVID season, we have a monthly power breakfast where business leaders and church leaders unite and converge. With the COVID situation happening, we've been unable to do it in person, but we're so glad that you are able to be with us here online as we have our online power breakfast here on Facebook Live. If you're watching live, I want to encourage you to click the share button. I believe that what we're going to discuss today can be life or death for somebody on your timeline as we consider a leader's emotional health. We're calling it leadership PTSD, maintaining emotional health while leading in a pandemic. I'm so excited to have the panelists that we have here today because these panelists are geniuses in their field, and I am incredibly grateful to have them with us as we talk about how to maintain our emotional and mental health as leaders. First, we have Reverend Dr. Johnny Parker. Dr. Parker is an author and a leadership coach. He's the director of counseling and the director of men's ministry at First Baptist Church of Glenarden. He's an adjunct professor at Johns Hopkins University and the former chaplain of the Washington Redskins, who always need a lot of prayer. Thank you so much, Dr. Johnny, for being with us today.
Glad to be here with you, Dr. Bobby.
Along with him, we have Dr. Chris Buckingham, who's the executive director of Life Christian Counseling. She's a licensed professional counselor in the state of Maryland, a nationally certified counselor, and a certified clinical trauma professional. And I'm incredibly grateful to have her with us. Dr. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm so pleased to be here, Dr. Bobby. Thank you.
My pleasure. Finally, we have Reverend Dr. Jonathan Shepard. Dr. Shepard is a board-certified child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist. He's the chief medical doctor at Hope Health Systems, Inc. He's the president and board of directors of the Black Mental Health Alliance and an ordained elder in the Church of God in Christ. I am grateful. Thank you so much, Dr. Shepard, for joining us today.
Thank you, Dr. Manning. It's good to be with you all. I'm the new kid on the block, so please be nice. But I think we're going to have a healthy discussion. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm very excited to have you with us, Dr. Shepard, and all of you, and very excited to have this discussion. Just speaking as a leader myself, and I'm sure you all may feel the same, with all that's been going on around us, there's just all of 2020. We begin the year in grief and mourning for those of us who are sports and entertainment fans with the death of Kobe Bryant. But then, of course, we experienced the COVID-19 pandemic just stretching all across our world. It's changed how our business leaders do business. It's changed how our pastors are doing church. It's changed how leaders lead and just completely turned it upside down. And then add to that, is the increasing racial tensions that are happening in our country. Of course, the deaths of Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, and then of course with George Floyd more recently as well. And leaders are taking a heavy load at this time. And I want to ask just for each of you to just kind of give an opening statement of specifically, we can talk about mental and emotional health for everybody, but can I ask you to zoom in on leadership and specifically leadership in this unique time? What are some of the things that you are seeing in your practice and some helpful tidbits that leaders can take home to really take care of ourselves during this time? Dr. Johnny, can I start with you?
Absolutely. So it's funny we talk about masks because we all know when you get on a plane, they tell you before you take off, put on your mask first. And literally, we're told to do that in case of a crisis. And now we really have to put on a mask all the time. And so what does that look like for a leader to put on their mask first? And here's a scripture that's important that helped me as a leader, because I failed in terms of my own emotional health, and I'm in the business, right? And so Paul says this to Timothy, 1 Timothy 4:16, watch your life and doctrine closely, persevering then in doing so. Because in doing so, you will save yourself and your hearers. Basically, when the leader wins, everyone wins. When the leader gets better, everyone gets better. So here's the deal, Dr. Bobby. In my life, I knew doctrine. We know how to do church. We don't know how to do life very well. And I'm not even sure. I'm becoming really, really cynical when they even say the phrase, let's have church. I'm not even sure what that means anymore. Let's have church. That's a whole nother conversation. But here's the deal. So watch your life. What does that mean? And what does that mean for a leader? Leaders are really good about looking at the front stage, their public life, activity, busyness, accomplishments, numbers, membership in the church world. I do a lot of business stuff too. That's the front stage. Man looks at outward appearance. So so in church world, the front stage gets a lot of attention. That's the external. But the heart of leaders, and to do it well, is the backstage. It's your private self. It's your heart and soul. It's the place of vulnerability. If we're honest, I just coached a pastor the other day. So much of his front stage is being driven because of backstage validation. And we use ministry. We use unhealed stuff, shame stuff in our backstage, and we use the front stage of ministry to act out our pain. And that's what was true for me in my story, Bobby. For much of my life, I battled with depression. At 38, going into my 40s, it turned to panic attacks. And so I knew how to do front stage ministry. I was terrible about allowing my wife in my backstage because I did not want her to see my stuff and my brokenness and my insecurities and how I use ministry to deal with validation. And I think that was David before COVID. Now you got this COVID and you have the racial tensions, and we have a lot of pain and a lot of processing that needs to happen. And if you're a male leader, and if you built your life on a foundation that way most males are socialized, not to talk about their feelings, don't talk, don't trust, don't feel. And that's how most males have been socialized. So now you put all these viruses of racial tension, of this pandemic. You have to be really intentional about how you show up from the backstage, how you process you. And so we'll get more into that, but that's just some of the things that I had to learn to go from panic and depression and being in this work to now allowing safe people, a therapist. I see a therapist periodically just so I can stay well and manage and attend to me.
Amen. Thank you so much for that. Dr. Chris, you want to jump in?
After Dr. Johnny? Yes, I will. I'm a therapist. That's what I do, and I supervise other developing counselors. So I get to see a pretty wide range of people who are helpers. And then a large part of our practice is working with church leaders, ministers, pastors. So we're really seeing a lot of what Johnny's talking about. Many of us, including myself, have unhealed areas or areas that we've just have continued to be something we've worked on over the years. And when you have these kinds of things happen, everything comes to the forefront. So even if you feel like you've done well, worked things out, feel like you have a pretty solid understanding of some things, it can kind of shake it all up. Um, I, what's interesting to me is that in my counseling work and in work with the counselors, just about every conversation we have in the counseling room, we end up talking about what's going on right now. So it was COVID alone there for a while. And now I make a point of asking how they're doing with everything that's going on with the racial stories and all the unrest. And it's such a relief to be able to just openly have those conversations, because I don't really have answers. I mean, I'm just trying to make sense of so much right now. I was a child of the 60s, so we saw a lot of protests. We saw a lot of difficulty, and it's not totally foreign, but it's still hard to find a place in that, because it brings things up from the past and the history, and because it brings up old injustices and hurts. The church has a really important role in this, but it's hard sometimes to know how we do that. So I'm just going to tell you how I've been thinking about it. Saul, before his conversion, was on the road to Damascus, and Jesus stopped him and he said, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" And Saul said, "What have I done to you?" And then Jesus made it really clear, that when he persecutes the church, he's persecuting Christ. And I think as believers working in ministry, as Christians, we need to, in the public sphere, we need to understand that there is pain and that we are participating in that. Even if it's not directly to us, we are grieving and lamenting and being hurt and harmed by what's happening to our brothers and sisters. And then by the church, by the world at large, those who don't know Christ are just really without hope, without understanding. And fear is at the core, and fear of abandonment is at the core of what people are struggling with. So long way around to get to the point of sort of understanding what's under what a lot of people are struggling with. And so we talk about, I know you're going to bring up this idea of burnout. We're going to talk about some of that. And I think that's a really good segue into some self-care issues too.
Thank you so much for sharing your heart in that regard. And yes, the absolutely understanding that we all have a responsibility when we see those who are persecuted, to our responsibility to take up that mantle. And we're seeing it happen so much. And I know so many leaders are taking up that mantle along with so many other mantles that we take up. And it's so important for us to take care of ourselves as we take up those mantles. Dr. Shepherd, I'm grateful that you're with us. Any thoughts in regards to this opening question of how do we as leaders handle all that's going on with us in a healthy manner?
Absolutely, I have some thoughts. So I'm going to start out with just thinking about the last words that George Floyd gave, is that I can't breathe. And this is what has happened in the year of 2020. The pandemic has occurred. We've talked about the traumatic deaths. We've talked about the racial injustices and the things that we have seen occur over these last 5 to 6 months. And these things are not brand new. The only thing that's brand new is that the coronavirus struck, but all it did was just unearth a lot of things that were already in place and that some people just were not paying attention to. And what has happened is it has occurred in such a perfect storm that it is trying to cut off literally our breath. And that's where I'm seeing people are having such a hard time even breathing right now, truthfully. They can't sleep, they can't eat right. Sleep patterns are just totally distorted. And again, these are leaders. And one of the reasons why I like this particular platform, and I really appreciate Dr. Johnny and Dr. Chris and how they've already integrated the word. But one of the scriptures that is the foundation for my profession and for my practice and for my ministry is in Proverbs 18:14, which says, "The spirit of a man will sustain his infirmity, but a wounded spirit who can bear?" And so let me tell you here is that if your spirit man, and again, it's not talking about just a particular physical man, but I'm talking about man and woman, but the inside of you at this time, leaders, you have to make sure that your spiritual health is being maintained in order to be able to go through these infirmities. As a physician, it has been proven over and over again, even with cancer patients, even when you've been given a terminal diagnosis, that when your spiritual health is well, you have better outcomes. And so, this particular platform today is really crucial because we cannot stop what is happening in this world. We cannot control that. But what we can control is how we maintain our spiritual health. And that is what will sustain you. What has happened is we've been wounded. I've already heard that mentioned before. And there are some deep wounds. I already said a lot of deep wounds have already been there. And one of the reasons why we're having such a hard time is because I heard this also, the deep wounds have not been healed. They have not mended. And even I was just thinking, I heard a quote today. Again, I'm always reading now. And so they said the likelihood of an infection is already planned by the time you put the last stitch in the wound. That thing spoke to me because it tells me that even when you're stitching up the wounds, like we're trying to do right now with the racial injustices, trying to heal the people, heal their minds with this pandemic, we got to realize is that if we don't do it right, if we don't heal right, there is an infection will set right back in. We'll be right back here a few years down the road. And so what I want to tell you all leaders out there, clergy, you may not know who I am. I look to get to know you all, but let me tell you, I'm a man who, I'm right there with you all. It has been difficult. I feel your pain. I know that it's been hard to breathe, but let me remind you of that word, that if you sustain your spirit man, or you keep your spirit man healthy, it will sustain you during this time of infirmity.
Man, I appreciate that perspective.
Really
You mentioned that, hey, I'm right there with you, and I'm looking at some folks who are great at helping other people work through their mental, spiritual, emotional struggles. But we're talking about a leader's PTSD. You guys are leaders as well. You're not just great therapists and counselors, but you lead others. You lead your organizations. You're leading ministries. Can you talk about real quickly, how have you maintained your emotional health? What have you been doing to maintain your emotional health? Dr. Johnny?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things is for me and for everyone watching and listening, for every leader, because I've done these with pastors and business community, we must give ourselves permission to mourn. We must mourn in order to move on. Psalm 30, verse 5. Weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. Now listen to this. We must go through the mourning, mourning, to get to the morning, morning. We got to give ourselves permission to mourn. And so there's a difference between grief and mourning. And I've had to do this, and I'm telling every leader, and I'm telling when you start your meetings, you need to be aware of this dynamic, because what can happen, you talk about post-traumatic stress, when this dynamic or when we begin to settle, a lot of post-traumatic stuff can trigger at a later time. And pastors really need to be intentional about doing messages around blessed are they that mourn. So what do I mean? Grief is internal. Grief is a sense of sadness and about the loss. Mourning is external. Mourning is when grief is when mourning is when grief goes public. Okay, and so by mourning, we must do things, because what's happened is this. I can't get to mom or grandma when she's dying now. People are not just physically dying. We can't even go near them when they're dying. We can't even go near them. And we've had a collective grief and loss of death, of graduations that didn't happen the way they used to happen, of proms that didn't happen the way they used to happen, loss of economics, loss of finances. I can't see a smile behind that mask. All of these things, I can't touch you anymore. So we got to learn how to hug people with our words, because we can't touch anymore. We got to practice namaste. So for me, I've been, one of the things I teach in my course at Johns Hopkins in positive psychology is mindfulness. I've been teaching people to be aware of their five senses, sitting, being aware. What am I seeing? What am I smelling? What do I feel? What am I sitting on? What that does, Dr. Bobby, it does three things. It brings calm, it brings clarity, and it brings creativity. That's one of the things. And now my wife and I are away, we're in the mountains. Another practical thing that I do, that I coach people to do, is savoring. Savoring is when you look forward to a positive experience. The ultimate savoring for the Christian is heaven. Paul says, though these light afflictions can't be compared to the glory that awaits us, you need to have something that you look forward to doing. Something simple. If it's just getting in the car, when we're back in the DMV, my wife got to get in the car. We just go up to Sugarloaf Mountain, listen to jazz, and go get some toilet paper and come back. That's it. You know, we used to do that when toilet paper was, you know, I mean, we get a little more than toilet paper, but you follow me. But you need to have something that you're looking forward to that's a good practice. This is very biblical. God goes hard in creating in Genesis, but before he goes to bed at night, he looks on his work and he sees that it's good. You see what I'm saying? So we can do some practical things, and then keeping a gratitude journal. That's what helped me work through my depression. Writing down gratitudes because of what it does to your brain, what it does to impact dopamine, serotonin, and so just being intentional, having conversations with your team. What gave you life today? What are you grateful for? With your spouse, with your kids, okay? So those are just some of the practical things. But I think that going back to the mourning, we really do need to teach people how to mourn well, because those emotions get trapped. And mourning doesn't have to be a permanent address, but we need to teach people how to mourn well.
That's good. That's so helpful. Dr. Chris, how about you? What are some things that you've been doing to kind of help maintain your health?
For those of us who are in where we work with lots of people every day, and so we've got to learn how to sort of metabolize their grief as well as our own grief. So I think just being really mindful, I think, Johnny, that's a terrific way to think about that. Being very intentional about what we are thinking about how we're feeling about what we're thinking about. Something I've learned about myself is I need big spaces, wide times where I don't have any other distractions. For me, that's really sitting outside in the garden. I mean, I need to have space where there's nothing going on except for just what nature's doing around me, the birds, looking at the flowers, sort of enjoying the work that I've been doing out there. And that becomes a real time of prayer and meditation and reflection. And I find that for me, having a larger time for reflection, for quiet, is so important. We in our church, I'm part of an Anglican church, we have morning prayer and afternoon prayer. I can't always make that because of the schedule, but even just having those times of focused community prayer has been really helpful, just to be able to read scripture together, to be able to pray as a community has been really helpful too. From the cognitive perspective, learning how to just release a lot of expectations has been really important. A lot of people, I kind of think it's funny, hey, I'm homebound, I get to do all these chores and jobs I've been waiting to take care of. Well, I didn't do that. I thought that wasn't going to happen anyway, but just giving myself permission to not let this be a time of catching up, but instead to have it just be a time of enriching and being more intentional, being more focused, really spending time with my husband. And we changed some things about what we've been doing. We get so busy. We work together and we see each other off and on during the day, but we don't always connect. So we have actually, sounds silly, but we've actually started in the evening when we make our dinner together. We make our dinner. This is kind of a fun thing to do, cooking together. And then we sit down. And for the first time in a long time, that has become the time when we're just sort of processing and how was your day today? What did you do? We've sort of lost that regular prolonged check-in. And it's been really a wonderful thing to re-engage. So, I think speaking about the lamentation, the grief, that is, we don't know. I think if we knew better how to really mourn and to voice those lamentations, there wouldn't be so much anger and violence, because that you've got the anger and then you've got the mourning on the other side of that. So we need to find ways to help our people and each other to be able to get in touch with those really hard, scary, broken, wounded, just destroyed parts within us, and learn how to really grieve and mourn those things so we can release them and move on, and they don't get trapped in the place that's anger and has to expose itself. Dr. Shepard, that I'm going to remember your comment about the the way the wound is, or the stitches are sewn up, sets the stage for the infection. I think that's really important to think about. So
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Fish. You mentioned just for you, it's your husband, but I think it's so important, and something we haven't quite mentioned yet is just the healthy relationships around us. You know, we have to socially distance, etc. But man, being able to process how I'm doing and how I'm feeling and my pain or my joy with someone who is healthy enough to be able to experience all of those feelings with me, man, it's so important. Whether I'm married or not, I need those types of relationships in my life.
absolutely.
Dr. Shepard, want to contribute here?
Absolutely. So I was going to run down just a couple of practical things that I've been doing. As a minister, I'll start there with the spiritual. We already talked about prayer, fasting, meditation. And let me tell you, even in this time, even when you're at home more, you still have to do that. You have to be intentional, because even though you're at home, I've found out that people have become even more tired and more exhausted to do those type of things. And so you have to be intentional in doing that. So I must say that I've been praying, fasting, and meditating more. And I mean, I thank God for it, because it's given me a spiritual revival of sorts in my life. And so I'm thankful for that. And also not just reading the Bible, but reading other literary works, and make sure that you're, again, exercising your mind, exercising that intellect that God gave you. And then let's talk about physical exercise. You need to do that. A lot of folks don't want to talk about that. Oh, that's a bad word. You need to get outside and exercise. And even though you stay at home, you can still step outside and walk. I've been doing that. I've been walking in areas in my neighborhood that I drive by all the time, but actually I'm walking and walking around the track, walking around the different high schools, and it's been awesome. And it just allows, again, my mind to be free, to be creative, as my colleagues had said earlier. I'm doing Zoom calls with my friends, colleagues across the country. That has been tremendous. And even this past one I just had, I was able to zone in and could tell that one of my friends, she wasn't doing too well. And at the end of that Zoom call, we prayed, and I mean, we prayed through. We laughed, talked with them, we prayed, and we prayed through. And I'm so glad that we have this capability to do that. Projects at home. I am not a handyman. Don't put a hammer in my hand. I'll see you, I'll pay you, and I'll watch you do it, but
I'm with you, brother. I'm same here.
So I've been doing things around my house that I've loved. It just opened up different areas around the home. So again, getting my mind off of things. Turn off the TV. The TV will stay off for several hours. I just turn it off because it's playing the same things over and over again. I don't Netflix and chill. Yeah, I don't. And for some people, it's got other connotations. I'm not going there, but I'm just saying, I don't do all.
You mentioned it. I was going to leave it alone, though. I wasn't going to touch it.
Oh no, I'm transparent, Doug. I turn that TV off and make sure that I've spent the time that it takes to do what I need to do. I traveled down this past Sunday. I went to the Black Lives Matters Plaza, and just to walk around and just see mural and stuff like that. Again, it helps put into context the gravity of everything that is going on in our world. And then just giving acts of kindness is my last one. Find someone to be able to call, communicate, find that young person, find that elderly person. Those are the two most vulnerable communities that we have right now. Call them up on the phone, say, I was thinking about you. You don't have to have a long conversation. You don't have to get in their business. Just call them, say, I'm thinking about you. I'm praying about you. And, drop them a nice little donation, a gift. And I'm telling you, it will inspire you, just like Dr. Johnny was talking about with that gratitude journal. And as you all are talking, I'm writing because I want to make sure that I'm using these things for myself too. So those are some practical tips.
Absolutely.
Dr. Bobby, you know what you just heard can be capsulized this way with Dr. Jonathan and what Dr. Chris has said. Think of it as an acronym PERMS. The P is the physical. Dr. Jonathan just said it. We need to be moving our body, going up and down the stairs 10 times. Just move your body. Do those God forbidden burpees, man. You know, do them things. Them things are straight from the pit of hell, but they're good for you, right? But you need to move your body. You need to get to bed. You need to turn off the technology an hour before you go to bed. You need the E is emotional. Get in the gratitude journal. Just doing the gratitudes, doing something simple like that. The R is relational. Social distancing is a terrible word. It's physical distancing, okay?
Yeah.
Make it a goal, 15 minutes, as Dr. Jonathan said, to talk to a friend, to connect with a friend, married or single, but to do that connection, that check-in. You good, bro? You good, girl? You know, just check in. The M is mental. So what am I doing mentally? Meditating on the word, doing some of the things I shared earlier about the mindfulness kind of things, simple things like that. And then the S is the spiritual. We all agree with that. I do a spiritual breathing, and we had time I would do it. But simply, I tell people through, you close your eyes and you breathe in for 10 seconds, and then we bring simple scriptures. My soul finds rest in you alone, O Lord. It's very calming. It's very soothing. I spend 20 minutes of my day. Why? That's a backstage practical activity to sustain my front stage impact. Like I've been going down to the marches. I've been down in DC protesting, and then I come back. A lot has gone out of me. And this is the way of Jesus, because in ministry, what happens in ministry, so much of it is front stage driven. And then we wonder why after, you know, come Monday, we hit a low. It's called post-event blues. That's what happened to Elijah. We need to follow the pattern of Jesus. Jesus goes hard on the front stage. He heals you. He teaches you. But then he finds himself, Mark 135, he's in a silent place, solitary place, and he's processing and he's praying. And we need to have that kind of rhythm. It's not life-work balance. It's life-work blending.
Good.
That's so good. Thank you for crystallizing. And I want to keep going on this my personal therapy session with these three doctors. I don't want it to stop. But since we're in therapy for me, I'll go ahead and be very, very open in this sense that, man, over the past couple of weeks, I have felt an extreme sense of burnout. It's been a difficult couple of weeks, you know, because, you know, the way I'm designed, and I know so many leaders who are watching us on Facebook Live. Hit the share button if you're on Facebook Live. Somebody's gonna be blessed by this. What I've been feeling is I'm naturally, as a leader, naturally driven, naturally want to get things done. You know, COVID for the first few weeks was a welcome challenge. Like, oh, okay, I got a new challenge to work on, a new thing to excel at, because that's how so many leaders are wired. But then excelling and working and grinding, at some point you will burn out. And I felt it just last week, to the point where, like, look, I need to take some time off. I've been going nonstop, and I've been close to a situation of just extreme tiredness and burnout. What are some telltale signs? I know what it looks like in me. Usually I find them too late, but what are help some of us leaders who may be on the brink of burnout? We may not even notice it. What are some telltale signs? Can I come back to you, Dr. Chris, to start us off with some telltale signs of burnout?
Absolutely. We've done a leadership luncheon a couple times in the last couple of years about burnout, because the stats are pretty dismal in terms of how many people in ministry will not stay in ministry over the next 6 years or so. It's getting better, but it still is it's a pretty high percentage. So this just little sheet I put together that kind of helps me to do a self-check. So I just have some things here. Little things make you disproportionately frustrated. You've become more cynical, decreased productivity, sleep doesn't refuel you, motivation is faded. You've lost passion for your ministry. The people you're ministering begin to irritate you. Isolating yourself, destructive coping mechanisms and unhealthy behaviors, including addictions and addictive behaviors. Marital discord, feeling disconnected from your family or friends, and feeling disconnected from God. I mean, those are not just sort of little issues. They really are a larger picture. of what approaching burnout looks like.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that. I'm going to ask you, and we want to get that list. We want to put that on our
Sure.
website, if you don't mind. Those just telltale signs, just such a great synopsis. Really quickly, Dr. Shepherd, you want to jump in? Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'm just going to give you my definition of what burnout is and what the requirements of burnout is, and then that list that Dr. Chris just gave, I totally sign off with that and agree wholeheartedly with her. So, the definition of burnout is when passionate, committed people become deeply disillusioned with a job or career from which they have previously derived much of their identity and meaning. All right.
Wow. Okay, you're moving too fast. You got to give us that again, because I feel like you're talking about me. And so give us that again, because I don't want us to miss it.
Yeah. I'm going to go back. I'll give it right, and then I'm going to break it down.
Yeah.
So burnout, again, is when passionate, committed people become deeply disillusioned with a job or career from which they previously derived much of their identity and meaning. All right. It also comes at things that inspire passion and enthusiasm are stripped away, and tedious and unpleasant things crowd in. All right. So that is what burnout is. And again, I talk about this, in various different venues. But what you have to know about burnout is two requirements. The first requirement is that it requires people to be passionate and committed. If you're not passionate or committed about anything, you will not get burned out. So some people saying they're burned out, I look at them, I'm like, wait a minute, you're not even passionate and committed about what you're talking about. So so you're able to judge a little bit by that. So in order to be burned out is you have to be passionate, committed about an idea and about the call that you have, all right? And then the other requirement is you become deeply disillusioned. And that really just says that your eyesight of how you view things has been messed up. So what Dr. Chris is just saying is that how I used to view things, I've become deeply disillusioned. There's nothing necessarily wrong with your eyes. It's just now that your eyes are deeply disillusioned. If you think about when you go to the optometrist and they put those things over your eyes are working well, right? But when they put those, I can't even think of what the names are, those optical lenses, and they change the different settings on there. And that's what happens when a person gets burned out. Nothing's wrong with your eyes. It's just that how you view things, how you view the world has just gotten deeply disillusioned. And that's what, with those things, the symptoms that Dr. Chris says, I'll just add that right on in. And I love when I talk about this, I love doing illustration. I used to wear eyeglasses, but I had LASIK surgery done 2 years ago. And that's when God really revealed to me how to be able to describe burnout. Because now when I do demonstrations like this, I put my old glasses on people and they're like, I can't see. Well, yeah, that's what happens when you get burned out. The call hasn't changed. The mission that God gave to you hasn't changed. It's just how you view things. That's what has changed. And so we got to get back so that people can get back healthy, inspired, so they can go back after that calling that God gave to them.
So good.
Man, how inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing it. Thank you all for my personal therapy session.
You're welcome. You'll get our bill.
Yeah.
3 bills.
I get 3, right? Well, I'm getting 3 bills from 3 of the leading minds in this in this field, and I want to say thank you to each of you very quickly in just a couple of minutes. If you guys just any final thoughts that you have to sum up and just let us know how we can stay in contact with you and your material and your organizations. Dr. Chris, I'm gonna come to you for some closing thoughts.
Sure, thank you. Life Christian Counseling Network, I'm the executive director and founder of this practice, and we're in the DMV, and we have about over 30 counselors, about 25 locations. Some of those are in partnerships with churches, and some of them are offices that we have established. So we do a lot of work with leaders, church. I mean, we're a Christian counseling practice, but we really work with anybody who wants to come in to have counseling. That you can reach us by just looking on the website at www.lifechristiancounseling.com. We have a newsletter that I think is really excellent. We put out every month. It's an electronic newsletter. And we have some good resources on our website. We provide some free consultation to leaders because we really think that's important. Sometimes pastors get in over their head and they're really not sure what they're dealing with, and we want to be a resource so that we can help them evaluate what's really going on here. Do you need to bring in some more help, or do they need to go to the hospital? So we'd be very glad to serve any way we can.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Finally, Dr. Shepherd.
Yeah, so my parting words, I'm just going to say the 4 points of mental health, and then how people can reach me. 4 things about mental health. You want to make sure that you understand it's about your potential, it's about your ability to cope, your ability to work, and your ability to make a contribution to your community. That's all mental health is all about, is those 4 main points. So you want to make sure that you are living your best life, and as you're doing that, that you're staying mentally well, recognizing your potential, knowing that you have the ability to cope, knowing that you have the ability to work fruitfully and effectively. So I need to add those adverbs in there. And then knowing that you need to make a positive contribution to your community. You can reach me several different ways. Social media, Jonathan Shepherd, the spelling is right there. There's only one Shepherd, only one way to spell Shepherd. I know there's Shepherd Pratt is out there, and I wish I was tied into Shepherd Pratt. But that's how my family spells Shepherd, a real shepherd, one who leads. So look me up on social media. You can hit me up on Instagram, Dr. J Shep, Twitter, Dr. J Shep. And so I have a professional page there. Also, I'm a part of Hope Health Systems. You can call me 410-265-8737. I provide direct care services. Please hit me up. Thank you, Dr. Chris. I was writing down your information. I may be sending some people your way, as people are always asking for direct care services. And so I'm glad to be a part of that organization. And also I'm part of the Black Mental Health Alliance. That is not direct care, but we do education and consultation. And in this time and in this day, we need to have people who understand cultural sensitivity and cultural awareness. And so we're doing several symposiums. So you can look us up there, Black Mental Health Alliance. So those are just some of the ways you can reach out to me. And I look forward to hearing from anyone.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Dr. Johnny Parker.
Absolutely. So one of my favorite statements around wellness is this, that wellness is hard work. Wellness is hard work. Wellness is worth the work. And we want to encourage you, as you've been hearing us say, to do the work. It happens intentionally, not automatically. So how can you find me on all the social media outlets, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter? I'm at, it's Dr. Johnny Parker. Dr. Johnny Parker, you can find me there. And then secondly, you can go to my website, my name, johnnyparker.com. And I got a bunch of resources. We got a turn the page and book and coloring book, because coloring is playful and it helps with relaxation. And we have an adult coloring book to go with our turn the page book. And we have just made available our online course, Turn the Page, and talking about your life, knowing your story, aligning your story, mastering your story. And we just discounted it. We just reduced everything with this COVID season. Financials have been hit. So we really want to engage people there with the online course that is a lot cheaper than seeing me as a coach, a whole lot cheaper. And then we're making available also a wellness group, a group for pastors and CEOs, where I will engage with them, and they can go to my website and we'll talk about that there. But yeah, we're going to make a group where we can talk with leaders, businesses, CEOs, and just help them in terms of wellness.
Beautiful. Thank you all. If I could give just one brief closing thought, it would be from this scripture in Mark chapter 6. In verse 30, it says, "The apostles returned to Jesus and told him all that they had done and taught. And he said to them, 'Come away by yourselves to a desolate place and rest a while.' For many were coming and going, and they had no leisure even to eat." Jesus knew these disciples had just come back from a tour of great and effective ministry. And Jesus knew that if they were going to be effective going forward, they would need to stop, relax, get away from people. because the text is clear. People were coming and going. The work was not slowing down. And Jesus knew that it would not be healthy to wait for the work to slow down in order for us to slow down. He says, the work is coming, but you got to stop because you don't even have time to eat. You have to stop. Don't wait for the work to slow down for you to slow down. Earlier, Dr. Johnny Parker mentioned the airline industry that has figured out this very, very important principle that if you're going to help somebody else get their mask on, you got to first put your mask on. And I know as a leader, as a parent, to hear that almost sounds selfish. No, I want to look out for my child, or I want to look out for my elderly loved one before I look out for myself. But no, if you don't first take care of yourself, you will not be in position to take care of other people. The most loving thing you can do for the people that you lead is to take care of yourself first. And so to all the pastors and all of the leaders and all the business owners and proprietors that are with us right now, I want to challenge and encourage you. Please take care of yourself. It's not selfish, it's wise, and it's the most caring thing that you can do for the people that you lead. Absolutely. Once again, thank you to everyone, to our incredible panel, and then to everyone who is joining us here today on Facebook Live. If you are a business owner and would like to think about becoming a strategic partner with the Collective Empowerment Group, please reach out to us on our website, www.empowerdmv.org. We are available for you to connect with us and to expand your clientele into the faith community. For you to connect so that we can build our economic presence in this community together with the church and the business community. If you are a member of a church, I want to challenge you, get your phone out and text your pastor. Ask them, are we a part of the Collective Empowerment Group? And if the answer to that question is no or I don't know, send the link to your pastor, empowerdmv.org, where churches and business leaders and political leaders connect to improve our circumstances, but improve our entire community. Thank you once again for joining us for this Power Breakfast. Our next Power Breakfast will be in the month of August, so please make sure that you stay close to our Facebook page as well as our website so that you can know when the next Power Breakfast will be. And once again, thank you so much for joining us. Panel, thank you again for being with us, and we'll see you next time at the Collective Empowerment Group.